We're approaching the final 10 kilometres of the opening day in the Algarve. It's down to the sprinters. The break has been caught and we're on our way to Lagos, scene of many a sprint battle before. The usual run in here after a slight change in the last 20 kilometres. We had one final climb, but it wasn't enough to see the sprinters ditched. And this is where we'll come into the final straight. There's that roundabout, and then it's this left-hand lane. Don't look over to the right there. They will stay in this left-hand lane. And it will be a finish along the seafront. A sprint that's on a fairly narrow road. 2 roundabouts inside the last kilometre and a quarter. The final roundabout taking them onto the seafront. And Matt, the wind is up.
Yep, it's blowing really strong. And also a big nod to the production team for giving us an aerial fly through there. We often get the graphics, but that was a really nice touch, getting the drone up in these windy conditions to give everybody that. We can describe it as best we can. We've obviously got Google Street View to look at. The riders know this finish well. That's a nice little touch, actually. We've got a real sense of it. But that's a Portuguese flag blowing in the breeze there, just showing you how strong this wind is. So coming from the left-hand side, in the nose, the sprinters teams will be riding on the right-hand side of that left-hand lane to force anybody who wants to try and come round with them into the wind. So watch out for that as we're coming to that final roundabout.
And just before those final couple of kilometres, there's that ever so slight uphill road. It's not really a climb, but it's false flat uphill for around a kilometre till we get 2Ks to go. And I know that in the past is where teams have just tried to put pressure on sprinters who might be feeling it a little bit. Doesn't usually work in terms of dropping people, but we have seen some excellent work. And I can remember last year, off the top of my head, Remco Evenepoel pulling a huge turn.
I remember it.
I wasn't commentating at the time. I usually cover this race, but I was away covering the Olympic Games last year, the Winter Olympics, and I remember in a jet-lag state switching on and wondering if I was hallucinating, because he was ridiculously good. Here
we go. It's a crash, unfortunately.
Now then. Oh, that's not good for the rider from Tudor. And I'm afraid that rider is Joel Suter, a really good Swiss rider. He's down. Oh, we don't need to see any more of that, I'm afraid. All the best to Joel Suter there, because that looks like a shocker. Also down there is a number 127, who's Yesid Pira. Several riders here from the smaller Portuguese teams, and this is how it happened.
Yes, Suter's gone over that wall, isn't he? Very, very unfortunate there. Touch of wheels. Let's hope he's okay. He's got medical attention quickly, which is good to see.
Well, thankfully the doctors are on the scene. A reminder that we don't bring these images to you. They're coming from the production on site. We don't get to choose which images we show, I'm afraid, but that's not good for Joel Suter. And I have a feeling that several riders may have to leave the race here. A couple of riders down there from one of the local teams, which is AP Hotels, and I mean local because they're from the Algarve, not just from Portugal. Farense and Tavira. All the best to those watching, and well, that puts a bit of a sickener on it, doesn't it, before we get to the finish, I'm afraid.
It does. It brings home how precarious quite often this sport is, and we've seen several crashes already this year. What we can do about that, Rob, it remains to be seen, but interesting to see the world of cycling, how that's discussed and dissected. But anyway, let's just hope that the riders we saw on the deck there aren't too bad, and will recover. But yeah, it is unfortunately, whatever way we slice it, is a component part of our sport. It's just, and also the riders accept they need to take some sort of responsibility in it as well. It's a very, very difficult conversation. It certainly is. Well, just great to see Suter's up and standing. Thank goodness for that.
Much better news with Suter up. Whether he continues or not is another matter, but he's up and he's on his feet. That is much better news. Rider down there for FAPL is the rider who's actually in the breakaway, Grigorev.
Very unfortunate.
Head shake. And you wonder as well whether he will continue or not. So 6.7 kilometres to go, and as Matt was just reminding us there, make sure you tune into the world of cycling, because they'll be discussing with guests in the studio and from around professional cycling as to whether this sport has become too dangerous at the top level or not. and that is exclusive to GCN Plus subscribers. First in a brand new series of the world of cycling. We're on our way to Lagos then. And there'll be a few nerves around the bunch after that. I mean, what is generally the reaction in the group? Is it sort of we've got to get on with it and forget about it? Or do you generally see a few looks here and there and go, hang on, guys, we've got to concentrate?
It's a little bit of both. Quite often, it might take a little while for that information to come over the radio, because that happened quite near the back. So riders at the front might not even be aware, but quite often you can hear it. It's just that horrible sound of carbon and tarmac and the shouts of riders coming down. You just never look round. You hear it, you almost tighten up on the bike, and then you just carry on. It's or you pick your way through the crash if you're behind it. But it's very unpleasant, and I don't think you can ever get used to it because each one is unique. It's massively unpleasant, but you just have to get on with it. And unfortunately, and I hope I don't feel like I'm repeating myself here, but it's a part of road cycling. These are on open roads, and that incident there didn't look like there was anything particularly wrong with the road. It's just a touch of wheels on that occasion.
Yeah. It's Jimmy Johnson's time at the front with 5 kilometers to go. He's there racing for Alpecin-de-Koning. Trek Segafredo with Jacopo Mosca doing his turn at the front in the white and red. You can see Rémi Cavagna having taken over now from the main man, the tractor. Soudal Quickstep have been riding all day, as you'd expect, as they have the big-name sprinter in Fabio Jakobsen. Of course, Tim de Klerk having done his job. It's also a very good afternoon. Hello, welcome to racing with a big contender for Uno X. We didn't see him involved too much in the Tour of Valencia. Just getting the motor going ever so slowly. Ready for the classics is the wily old fox Alexander Kristoff. Can he find that speed again to the line today?
Yeah, just off the podium in Almeria, wasn't it? I think he was 4th in Almeria, so it's obviously going well. Not bad for one of his first races. And the way that we heard Søren Verenskjold talking suggested quite strongly they were going to ride for Kristoff today. Maybe flip it round for stage 3, take it in a little bit, take it in turns. But they're riding on the front now, really high intensity. It is Sparagli sat in second wheel there, so it suggests that they are. Given the fact that Sparagli was in second wheels, it suggests they're going to be sprinting for somebody else today, not the Italian. But given we've got this wind, only 3.9 k's to go, this looks relatively easy in the bunch. In the wheels it is, but when you're riding on the front, it's so much harder. So riders are going to be riding at a higher intensity for a shorter amount of time in this wind. It's because it's so much easier behind. Only one intense turn, and that's what makes that turn that we were just briefly talking about of Evenepoel last year utterly incredible. He did the best part of 2k on the front, and he's one of the only riders in the peloton to do that, given his engine and given the fact that he's ridiculously aerodynamic as well. So he is a unique specimen. Not many riders, actually hardly any, Rob, can do the sort of effort that he did last year.
Yeah, for Alpecin-de-Koning, maybe look towards Timo Kielich, a young Belgian rider from St. Truiden, wearing number 7 on his back. Certainly we've seen now that Christian Sbaragli has not won for 7.5 years, and well, with the work he was doing there, it would suggest he wasn't going to be trying winning today. We're going on this ever so slight uphill drag now, well known to followers of the Volta Algarve. There you can see it, 3 kilometers to go, and when we get to 2 k's to go, the little drag finishes and those roundabouts and the run into town proper begins. 3 k's remaining now, and that'll be good news for those who want to go for the general classification, given the little spill that we just saw a moment ago.
Yeah, another rider we haven't mentioned, actually, I have underlined in green, Matteo Trentin as well for UAE Team Emirates. We'll probably want to get in the mix, I'd imagine. Not a pure sprinter, but we know he's pretty fast. There's had a couple of top 10s already this year, but out of the squad of UAE Team Emirates, he would be the rider that might go for it, or they might not have a full lead out. But it's still on the front of the right-hand side there, Rob. Soudal Quickstep, and on the left-hand side, Bora. And then the blue, interestingly now moving through to the front, no doubt looking after Jake Stewart. You'd imagine Groupama FDJ in the navy blue kit there, just in the middle of your screen.
Ofstetter being moved up as well in the red jersey for Arkea Samsic, but it doesn't have too many men around him. Here we go on this uphill drag. We're about to come over the top of it now. Christophe is staying up towards the front where he needs to be. We're just seeing Soudal, quick step on the left-hand side. If I was going to say Evenepoel, then he's not in this race, but Jacobsen, pardon me, is there. Jacobsen is there alongside Van Wilder. Jacobsen, the European champion, just moving up for himself through the centre. And I'm sure he'll be trying to re-find his lead out in a moment's time. Bora Hansgrohe desperately trying to put the power and the pace on. It's Marco Haller who's been doing that for them. 2 kilometres to go now. UNOX just making sure that they have Alexander Christophe at the front. It did go uphill. There was a concerted effort there from Bora Hansgrohe to really try and put the likes of Jacobsen in a little bit of pressure. They haven't got rid of Jacobsen, but what they've done is just move him down into about 30th or 40th place there. He's got to move up again, and they're hoping, I guess, that that little bit of effort to move up, find his team again, is going to take a little bit of the spring out of his step.
Yeah, well, they've placed one of the rods on the front. You can't quite tell who it is at the moment, but they're looking round. Also, UAE Team Emirates on the left-hand side as well. So it is Lotto Soudal Quickstep on the front, coming into this first little right-hander, trying to spot where the European champion is. Several riders from UAE. They're very well placed at the front. UNOX also there. So not a lot of colour blocking. Just showed how hard that final climb was.
Coming around, they will twist right in just a moment's time into that final few hundred metres. 1 kilometre to go here. A look round from Rémi Cavagna, and he can see that Fabio Jacobsen is being brought up on the left as we look at it by Miguel Marco. He'd been down into about 15th position, but through the centre it's UAE Emirates as we come towards this final roundabout now, and then they'll be into the big finale. Matt, it is key to wait here in this wind.
It is. It's Groupama FDG on the front, 750 metres to go. Lots of glancing around. And Jacobsen is way back, but he can afford to leave it. He's still got his lead-out man on his wheel. So Jacobsen, the European champion, is on the wheel of Michael Morkov at the moment, as it still is. It is the blue of Groupama FDG. There's also a couple of riders in the mix there from UNOX.
And you can see that Stewart's there, Penwet is there as well, moving up is Trentin, left-hand side as we look at it. It's now Mirko who's Charles who's trying to wait before he leaves. We're past 300 metres to go now, into 200 metres to go, and it's Mirko who's still putting his man into position at the right time. It's a late one this, and now they go into the wind. On the left-hand side in the white, you can see Jacobsen is there, but is he going to get around the main man? I'm not sure he is, because going to the line right now, it's Jumbo-Visma. Look like they're going to take it. No, it's Christophe. Christophe is there. Christophe through the centre, and we wondered when the wily old fox would get that motor up to speed, and it's right here, right now in the Algarve.
Oh, what a sprint that was from Alexander Christophe through the centre. He had another, I think it was Verenskjold sprinting on the left-hand side as well. I think Jacobsen had to, it was a very late sprint, but Alexander Christophe powered through the centre, but it wasn't actually given a lead out. It looked as if they were going for a two-pronged assault on the win, and might have got first and second or first and third, but great win there. First win of the year, first win in his brand new team colours. That was absolutely superb, and I must admit, a slight surprise, but that was, we know he likes a hard drag of a finish, but magnificent there from Alexander Christophe.
Well, there is the view. Alexander Christophe off to celebrate. Gets the congratulation from those looking for him. And Christophe opens his account. By the way, there's a crash in there for Casper van Uden, the sprinter from DSM. We just saw him back on his bike and going towards the finish. And as the wind batters the finish line, it's Alexander Christophe who wins just ahead of Jordi Meus. And this is that sprint again. Let's have a look. Søren Varensholt is in front of Christophe here. You can see that Jacobsen is being brought up on the right-hand side at the bottom of your screen in the white jersey by Mirko. Groupama having a real go. It looks like for Paul Penwet here, who is wearing number 32. Now on the left-hand side, you have the sprint being launched by the rider from Alpecin de Koning. That is young Timo Kielich, who we said it might be. Meus goes in the green. There's a rider too from Jumbo-Visma. But through the centre, it's Alexander Christophe who launches ahead of Jordi Meus. And well, it's a third in the end for Søren Varensholt.
Yep, that was my error there. Valenshall was leading him out, protecting him from the wind on the right-hand side. So he was. So there's that just crash that we didn't see that before. A couple of riders coming down on the right, but this is the sprint. This is where Valenshall goes. But look at him moving over to the right-hand side. And Christoph waiting. Already on the left-hand side, Jakobsen is exposed, but then straight through the centre. Christoph looking very, very strong indeed. He took it by half a length in the end.
All right, there's some Jumbo-Visma in there as well. You assume that one of them would have been Owen Helena, maybe Tim van Dijk as well. There were two riders actually in there. Bit of a messy finish. I think that Tom Pidcock was there or thereabouts. Yep, there he is, just on the right-hand side, following the wheel of Jordi Meus. And I think he's brought home a top 10 as well.
Just likes getting stuck in, doesn't he, Pidcock? He's so versatile. But this is a classic sprint. They did so well there. As you say, first and third. You wonder if Jakobsen just opened up a little bit too early, but he's stuck with Morkov on the right-hand side there. But then look at that. So Jakobsen faded. As soon as he knew he wasn't going to win, he just dropped off a little bit there. He's not going to fight. As soon as he knows he's lost, he's not going to keep on going. But great win by Alexander Christoph. Very important win as well. A perfect sprint. The timing, absolutely fantastic. And he just came off the wheel of his teammate with that wind. I mean, when you look at the point that Christoph launched his sprint, he was still protected by his teammate. That's so crucial in a wind like this. So had that protection all the way. The other riders that had launched were already in the wind. We saw Jakobsen on the right-hand side having to contest with that wind. While at the same time, Christoph had launched his sprint but was still sheltered, so could carry that little bit of extra pace.
Well, liking it in Lagos was Alexander Christoph. UNOX taking their second victory of the season. And the man who took their first, setting up the big new signing to do it on European soil. And this is that final kilometre again.
Yeah, it is quite... It's the only team with any real colour blocking are actually Crew Palmer on the right-hand side. That climb, it did cause a little bit of an upset. Several riders slipping back. Not much colour blocking at all here. And you can just see, as you said, Remy Cavagna having a little look round, see if he can find where Jakobsen is. Now, Jakobsen at the moment is way back, but he's not in a bad position at all. And obviously, he trusts Michael Morkov to pick his way through. So they're waiting. Crew Palmer bossed it through that corner, usurping at the time UAE Team Emirates, who were looking after Matteo Trentin. And as I said, they're going to move over to the left-hand side. Still lots of looking round. A very late bit of walking across the road there from a random pedestrian as well. Slightly worrying. But they're opening. This is Miles Scottson on the front now. Scottson taking it through very, very early. Well, sorry, this is Scottson on the left-hand side here, should I say. But look at where the men from UNOX are. You can just see Verenskol there. Big figure of Verenskol still looking after Christoph. He makes his move and straight away starts to drift over to the left-hand side where that shelter is. Great bit of riding here. They really did do their homework. Straight over to the left-hand side. And Christoph still in the wheel now. Still in the wheel, off the wheel with only about 80 metres to go. So it's minimum amount of time exposed in that wind.
The experience, the know-how and the speed to back it up. Alexander Christoph is the oldest stage winner at the Volta Algarve for 38 years. Not since then 41-year-old Joaquim Agostinho won in 1984 has anybody won at such a late stage of their career. 35 years old, Alexander Christoph with his first of the season, beating Jordi Meus and his lead-out man, Søren Varenskjold. Fourth place went to Fabio Jakobsen. Fifth, Tom Pidcock following the wheels and getting in there. Bittner, Penuet, Tesfazion, Kielich and Turns all up there in a shake-up of a top 10. Not always the order we expected, but that's what makes it interesting. Well played, UNOX, and that augurs very well for first the Classics and then UNOX's first appearance at the Tour de France.